Okay, Shabbat Shalom. So a few words on what we're about to encounter in this, a few spoilers on what we're about to encounter in this week's Parsha. Sin of the golden calf. Not our best week as a people, kind of a fiasco. When we think about the golden calf, generally I think, quite reasonably, we think, yes, the calf was a replacement for God, because it's an idol and idols are fake gods, right? But if you look closely at the actual text of what happens, you might start to see something different. It says, the people gathered against Aaron and said to him, "Come, make us a god who shall go before us. For Moses, the man who brought us out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what has happened to him. Make us an idol because we don't know where Moses is. Not because we don't know where God is, because we don't know where Moses is." But wait a second, it's not that they think that Moses is a god, right? It literally says the language that they use, Hizem Moshe Ha'ish, Moses, the person. They know he's a god. And also, what are they asking? They use the word, make us an Elohim. That's a God word for sure. But they say, Asher Yochu Lefanenu, that will go before us, like Moses did. Right? Like if you wanted a god, you would ask for a lot more from a god than just walk in front of us. Right? We would expect much more from an actual God. Like it's what they're expecting of this Elohim is what Moses did for them. Ramban, the commentator, imagines it similarly. He says, he kind of paraphrases what he thinks that they were saying and says, Na'aseh lanu Moshe acher, make us another Moses. Sheyoreh haderech lefanenu al pi Hashem, like that will show us the way in God's way. So their ask itself wasn't an ask in a sense, like there's this way that they were asking for another leader, not asking for a God. And it's also strange language. It says, Moshe ha'ish asher ha'elinu me'eretz Mitzrayim. Like Moses that brought us out of Egypt. Isn't the whole thing that God brought us out of Egypt? Isn't that the language that we repeat over and over again? So there's this kind of strange confusion happening. And yet, for sure what ends up coming out is a fake God. Right? There's all this crazy revelry. Moses comes down the mountain. Commentators disagree on exactly what was happening, but it wasn't good. Right? They're like everyone's dancing and singing, and it's a problem. It was out of control. So at some point, it seems that they got confused enough that this ask for a leader became an ask for a God. It might not have started out that way, but there was this place at which they started to get confused between a man of God, Moses, and God. They were relying so much on him that when he wasn't there for a little bit, they said, you're going to have to make us another one. In our times today, I think for most of us, making an actual idol is not that hard to do. Not making an actual idol. Pretty easy to avoid. You know, God says, don't make idols. And I'm like, I was not planning on making an idol, so it's no problem. But my question is, what do we unwittingly turn into idols? In the same way that the people of Israel kind of slipped into this thing, from a good place even, in a way, from this desire for Moses. The 19th century Ishbitzer Rebbe, the Hasidic Rebbe, the Mea Shiloach, he says, when a person finds themselves so used to a physical pleasure in this world that they cannot separate themselves from it, that is called a masecha, an idol. And so what do? Do you totally just not do any pleasures in the world? Do we separate ourselves from the good things of the world so that we don't slip? No, he says, for physical enjoyment, a person must remove himself from any personal motives and attachments. And any pleasure that's left will be from God. In other words, true enjoyment in this world is divine. True connection in this world, true leadership, Moses' leadership, the connection of a leader to a people, is holy. But when we lose our ability to separate ourselves, to see ourselves as not needing, as not the same as not fully dependent on a leader, an object of enjoyment, when our identity, when our sense of self, our sense of okayness in any one moment is so wrapped up in an object, or in a person that in a sense we start to turn into an object, the Mea Shiloach says, then we're engaging in a form of idol worship. So then the question is, okay, so how do we let go? I think all of us can relate to this way that there's things in our lives or people in our lives that we feel like we need to the sense that is not allowing us to enjoy them in all of their fullness, but there's this sense of scarcity around us. There's a sense of wanting to constrict and turn it into a thing in a certain sense. How do we do it? How do we enjoy the pleasures of this world without the objectification? Without objectification. How do we move to feeling a joy in the world that is free, that's part of the larger flow of life, that is holy? Well, this is not a full Devar Torah. This is just a Torah intro. So I'm going to have to leave that question up to you for now. And I am wishing you a Shabbat of untethered delight.